You even go into the villages, it's just a norm. So what sort of leader do we get? But most importantly, it is the outcome that these leaders look at. They know we will forget, we will not harp on those bad behaviors. So I yield for now.
All right, thank you very much, Ayo, for your submission. Yes, I agree with you. There's this thing between Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Daniel Bwala. I cannot pinpoint what that is, but it appears they have a very good relationship. That's why I disagree with the individual that spoke today on News Central when he said that Daniel Bwala is a mole by the PDP, by articles, people, the article people send him back to go and destroy Bola Tinubu. I disagree with that because there was this thing about them, even when people believe that he shouldn't be given the spokesperson position, that the likes of what's the other, Payo Nonoga and the rest of them. But for some reason, that's Bola Tinubu for you. He built relationship with people, and for some reason, it worked for him. But maybe this one has not actually played out the way he would have wished. I believe that before Daniel traveled for this interview, I believe that there's a possibility that they had a conversation, and he said, "Go ahead and do it." That's what I think. But people didn't consult him. Did this on his own, accord and everything. I do not think so. But that's my take on it. So movement, you're back. Because if you have the mic, sir.
Yeah, so I'll just go straight to the point. I'm going to quote the words of Timothy Snyder, two keywords. The first one is, if you're deceived in politics, it is your fault. And the second one comes from that his book on tyranny, 20 lessons for the 28th century, in which it was a concise guide for urging citizens to defend democracy against rising authoritarianism, drawing from 28th century European history. Snyder highlights how democracy can fail, providing 20 actionable lessons, such as do not obey in advance, protect, protect, defend institution, beware of one party state, etc., etc., etc. But I'm gonna stay on just one point: defend institution. Everybody keeps looking at this Daniel Bwala's issue as a failure of Daniel Bwala. No, it is not. It's an indictment of the Nigerian press. If this interview that occurred with the Nigerian press, we probably would not have had this debate we're all having now. It was the foreign press, Al Jazeera, and they practiced journalism the way journalism was supposed to be practiced, where you cross-check facts against facts. And to the person being interviewed to either deny or not deny the fact that is presented before them. Now, Bwala did not present himself, but it's not that it should be the issue of most of our elitist conversation. It should be it should be the fact that our system of governance has decayed so much that we have people who lack integrity. We have people who lack credibility representing our governance, because that was what we exhibited to the world through that interview. And it's not an indictment of Bwala. If you think of it deeply, it's an indictment of how our journalism have failed to defend the institution of journalism, the institution of the press, the institution of unions, the institution of courts. So when I continue to argue in my own personal argument that the Nigerian malaise is as a result of not just the ruiners of Nigeria, but the internal enemies of the elite in their failure to stand as citizens and defend their professional ethics of a job. And you do that by asking tough questions, hard questions, not weak ass questions, which I call WAG questions. And that is what this incident has shown us to me. And we are all talking about Bwala fail, reflect on the president. No, this is an indictment of the Nigerian press. It shows you, because if that had happened with the Nigerian press, we probably will not have these firecrackers that we're all talking about today. You understand me? That's my perspective. And El Nathan, if you're listening, I'd like to have time to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Radio. I do agree with you because you know some of the things some of the questions that the journalists ask Daniel Bwala, some of our journalists might not be able to ask those questions, right? And I think we discussed that the last time we had this conversation, and we actually touched on the quality of our journalism and how we intend to do things. And some persons, I'm happy Barrister Henry is here. Barrister Henry's argument is that one of the reasons why our journalists in Nigeria might not be able to have done so is because after the conversation or after the interview, the NBC would now write them a letter and say, okay, so and so person came on your platform. This is what they said against the president. You have to repair this. You have to do this. So, this is the problem we find ourselves. But I do agree with you, movement, for your submission. Thank you very much, guys. I think we're going to stick to this topic because I'm not sure if you're able to touch the El-Rufai topic, which I think is very, very important. But let's see if we can by keeping to time as well. Thank you very much once again. Mr. Paul Jr., you have the mic. Good evening, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I commend the space anytime I join. I try as much as possible to listen attentively and to, when it need be, make some inputs. I must commend the last speaker, the Movement Radio. I hope I'm correct. I love your thoughts. I love your line of thought and the way you pointed it out. The issue of most of the issues we have in Nigeria is a failed societies, failed institutions. I think we contribute to it in as much as we celebrate it and we encourage it in our own way. The Daniel Bwala's issue is not just about the institution they represent, it's about Nigerian people. It's about our public image. Someone can deny what he said in public space, and we are celebrating it. To us, it's a comedy. It is out for his resolution. In developed countries, you resign his position because it's not just about yourself, it's about Nigerian people. It's about how people see Nigerians outside the country. So I think it's time we shouldn't just take these things as it's normal, it has happened that way. Yes, we have corrupt institutions, but we must not continue like this. That's why it's important when we have strong oppositions, when we have strong opposition that can change the institution. Someone said here before that police is all about is a game of numbers. Yes, I believe that. But when we have the wrong numbers with wrong information, with wrong background, we have a long way to go. The issue we should be talking about now is the consequences of when a failed institute. Okay, during the university, they said if you have a certificate from universities, it both in character and in learning. In character is about your integrity. I think most of our institutions has failed us because some of these issues they are even the civil society organizations are supposed to call for accountability of these officers. You can't just play politics with everything. Look at what is happening in America. Look at what's happening in Iran. It was the decisions that leaders are taking. They represent the people. They represent the people, the common masses. If you don't speak, if you don't say what they say outside, they affect the common man, affect every one of us, whether we like it or not, whether we enjoy them or not. It affects our image, how people see us, how people rate us, how other institutions will take us seriously. I want to differ a bit. I think it's time we start calling these people back. We start raising issues about their integrity, about calling the president is aware of his movement. He employed him. He represented the president of Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Nigerian people, not just his office as a spokesperson. And if you watch that interview, it was just a blunder. I think the Nigerian youth has to. It's time for we all to rise and demand for what is right. I don't think we by celebrating them, making noise and all. We complain and we get tired. We complain and we get tired. If we fail to act, if we fail to take the responsibility of our country, if we fail to take the leadership mantle and say this are what we want, I don't think nobody will do it. They will keep repeating. People say Bwala is a strategist of it's not that. It's a system where we fail to act. It's a system where the youth are domiciled. They will not even do anything. Nobody wants to do anything because this is our system. we encourage the evil happening. It's affecting us. Why if few benefit from it? I want to call on every one of us to think of the approach we give to these things. It's not just on social media. It's not just on radio commenting it and all of that. Some people defend we have to stand as a Nigerian people against what is against us. If anybody, no matter what it is, they should face the consequences of what they did or what they are doing to our country or what they are doing to our image. The other person was appointed an ambassador. After traveling from Nigeria to overseas and prove a point that this guy was a drug dealer and have no certificate. And today he's appointed and confirmed ambassador in Nigeria, representing a country. How do other people see us? How do other people see us? Tomorrow you vie for such positions outside. These things affect our public image? It affects the Nigerian image, and it affects our integrity. Nobody will take us serious. They will see this is how they are. So I think I'm calling our Nigerian people, I'm calling everybody to sit up. I'm calling our Nigerian youth to sit up. We have to start demanding accountability. We have to start calling for the resignation of these people that they failed us, not just themselves and the party they represent. Tomorrow, I'm in DC today. Maybe for Empower tomorrow, No, the people should stand up and demand for what is right. If Nigerians will write to international bodies, these people will demand. You can see when we write petitions against these persons, they can deny them visas from coming to their country. It will affect them. It will affect their public image. Not just complain on social media. If ADC today gets the power tomorrow and makes up not just about the noise on social media, we should start demanding for what is right for our country. We should start demanding for what is right for the integrity of our nation. We can't leave you can't leave it for them to do. They feel the Nigerian people can't do anything. They feel they can get away with anything they throw at us. So when someone defend our country, we should stand for it. We should be calling for their resignation. We should be calling for their resignation. I think that if we start taking that stand, then Nigeria they will know this generation has reason up to take what demands for them. At least for now, that's my little input on this issue. I'm not entertaining it as an opposition. No, I'm not even taking it as it's disgraceful. We can't continue in this part. We can't continue in this part. Please, thank you for your time and having me. But I am calling for us to take a new stand against this bad leadership style. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Paul Jr. for your submission. People always use this term when people are making noise on the social media. If you guys understand the power of social media, you use it wisely. You know, one thing I enjoy about hosting spaces in the next morning, right, or the next day, depending on what time I'm hosting the spaces, the emails that I get from spaces is what I really enjoy. And some of those emails, at least 25 to 30% of them are not from Nigerians. And you ask yourself, okay, they will always, you read emails about what the speakers have said and how people perceive Nigeria. So the idea that people are talking on social media, I just don't like when people use that phrase, because social media is as more powerful than a lot of you have, given it credit to. And I will continue to say this. If anybody have a different formula that they think will work, don't wait for anybody. You can start something for yourself. Start something with, maybe others will join, right? But let's not discourage people and say they're talking on social media. Listen, people have the right and way to do things. If anybody thinks that the best way to go about it is to go out there and carry a placard and do it, please go ahead and do it. As long as you're doing everything, that is not against the law, nobody's going to harass you. Go out and say, Daniel Bwala has disgraced Nigeria. President Tinubu needs to sack him tomorrow. Take your placard. Maybe some other person will see and say, one thing, this makes sense. Let me follow them. But just allow people to do what they think they want to do. Social media is powerful. And I can tell you who spend some time on social media, the impact of it, is something a lot of people not really now. You spoke about what needs to be done. There's a topic, hopefully, if I'm able to get lawyers, I have two of them on the platform, maybe I will get more. There's a topic going on right now about the MBA, right? When somebody decided to go to court and get an injunction that we should be the only candidate. How do I got to know about it? I didn't see it on the newspaper. I saw it on social media, and I reached out and said, "What is going on?" Somebody explained to me and said, "This is what is going on in the NBA. Somebody has come to your state, a court in your state, and gotten a judgment. Please, I said, we need to talk about that." So, okay, I'm going to make that. So, as much as we want to do other things, I believe social media still have a part to play. But thank you very much, Mr. For your solution. I'll download, I'll pass the mic to Victor, then I'll come to Mr. Namdi. Victor, you have the mic. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mindset. How are you tonight?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah. So, what I would just like to say is that everything will look like the unexamined life. As much as social media is good and everybody can put up their opinion and everybody, but something is killed. What we have on social media is the unexamined life or lives, judging the lives that have been examined. What is funny is that everybody that I've ever met on social media, they are honest, they are not corrupt, they are perfect, and it's everybody else that is the opposite of them. Then I ask myself, how is this possible? How is it possible that 100% of the people on social media are honest, perfect, they have no fault, they don't lie, they don't cheat, yet the country is in a mess based on the people we have examined? How does that even make sense? Is it that we are trying so hard to ignore the rules that the aggregate of the society is what is projected on the stage? So how come it's only in Nigeria that everybody on the stage are the evil people, and all the people who are hiding their identity, who cannot even show up on social media, are the perfect people? I don't understand. It's something is not adding up. Yes, Mr.
Sorry, I apologize, Victor. I don't want us to put the topic on what the conversation is to start discussing social media and why people think not valuable to some process. I'd like us to come back to this is why I always talk about sticking to the topic, right? And not to yourself, those who are ready to talk discuss. If you're not, if the person is not comfortable with the topic and it's not doing other things they think we should discuss, perhaps you can say that, but when we have a topic, it's very important that we stick to that topic. Because we have now moved from Daniel Bwala, we have turned it to social media, right? And before I pass my back, I would like to respond to this. And this is from story time. So we only love to speak action in this part we have over here. When I respond to you to who I like to respond to, like yourself, nobody invited you to come and spaces. Nobody said, please come and join us here. Please, without further ado, you have no responsibility. Go ahead and do it. Allow those who want to be on spaces to speak. With that, you know what it's going to be. Right? I keep telling you guys, I don't want to block people on this platform, but when you be your specific on this platform, I'm going to do that to you, right? If you don't like the conversation between and allow those who waste their time, go somewhere else, go and do your protest against one thing, do other things. Nobody's going to stop. I'm not going to ask you, right? Please go ahead. Let's come back to the topic. Thank you.
So one thing I just want to say is that at least the people that want to judge Bwala should be courageous also let us examine their own life so that it will be a fair judgment. Because an partner's life is there in public. So if you want to judge an Bwala, whether it's a failure, whether it is, whether, and don't mix it with you. See, something that I always notice is that everybody else talks about how a politician feels. All those people are not politicians. So that only those who are not that know how a politician must behave. How is that even possible? Thank you.
All right, Nico, I would like to respond to this thing that you said. You see, democracy is governed by the people by the people. And some of us are not politicians. But those, whether we voted for them or we didn't vote for them, they become the governors, become our senators, become our president, right? It's our responsibility to ask questions when there is no places to ask questions. I do not think we should not ask questions. And so, like you put it out there, some person that are questioning the Bwala, they work better than him. But I'm just going to ask you a question. Respond to it. Let's speak to it. What do you make of Daniel? Because to some persons who are not, um, some persons who are APC members, and some of them who are not APC members, but they might not have seen this picture. I wanted to hear from you, Remy. What do you make of that interview?
And most of those good examples, so an example, I feel I'm not going to judge the man because he failed one exam. We all have bad days. That was a bad day for him. He didn't read the rules or read the rules well. If you want to go to an interview with somebody like Medias and you go and read how to win an argument, which is his book. I was in front of him, telling, stick to the topics we have agreed to discuss. If you ask me anything outside of the topic we have agreed to discuss, I would plead the fifth. I will not answer you. So he felt it's just like going for a job interview and the person is asking you about your girlfriend. Do not have to answer. So he felt fine interview, but it's just one interview out of maybe 1,000 that he has had. You can't crucify a man because he failed one interview. Haven't you failed an interview before?
All right, thank you very much, Victor. At least we are getting somewhere. The good thing here is you agree with some persons that he failed, but then the opposition is who haven't failed before in their life, right? Even hosting spaces, I've had some bad days. I think one of the spaces I hosted, and Nathan was like, "Mindset, I've not seen you get up by this." So we do have a bad day, but the good thing here is someone like yourself and some persons who in Parliament who look at this thing critically and say, "No, hold on a minute, that they have failed." But thank you very much, Victor, for your wonderful submission. As always, I will only pass the mic to those raising their hands. So if you're in the speaker section, you have not contributed and you're not raising your hand, unfortunately, I'm not going to pass the mic to you because that indicates that you're not ready to speak, right? And I do not want anybody to feel bad and feel like they have not been called to speak. So if you want to contribute, please, if you can raise your hand, then I'll pass the mic to you. On that note, I'll go back to movement. Movement, you have the mic.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the opinion of the last speaker. I believe that when it comes to democracy, there's a collective responsibility and duty that is entangled with our engagement. It sounds like big English, but what I'm trying to say is that each of us have a communal contribution and responsibility in a democratic setting. And when somebody speaks on behalf of our government, and that person's speech tends to be not defendable, tends to be a lie, tends to be lacking integrity, lack credibility, that person not only insults us, it insults our country. And it is our collective duty to call such people to order. And when people come and say it's just an exam, asking about his girlfriend, it shows how are the mighty fallen. That's the best. How are the mighty fallen? It shows how low we have gone. It shows how low as a people, collective, how low we have gone. We have gone so low that the banner of expectation has even been lower below 6 feet level. In this climb, where people will now say, well, it's just a bad interview. I would have said, I can't answer. You are a representative of a government. You speak on behalf of the people. It's upon you to speak the truth, defend your past, defend your present, and defend your future. So when you are unable to
Going to extend the time about 35 or 25 minutes to round up the conversation for tonight. But I think what we might need to do is we might need to extend the time so we can discuss the national El-Rufai with the ICPC and then the insecurity in Nigeria. That's something that Sheikh Gumi said, and I would like us to discuss that as well. So whoever is speaking next, please, let's be mindful of them so we can carry others along. Please. Mr. Nnamdi, you have the mic, sir.
Nice. Thank you so much. Just want to confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. Also, there's been a lot of discussion about what are the takeaways from that interview and where does the ball stop. Ultimately, on the international stage, when such a situation occurs, the ball stops with the commander in chief. And I hope that what this interview does is that it goes a long way in dispelling this horrific myth about Bola Ahmed Tinubu as some kind of master strategist. And I'm going to support that statement on four bases. Number one, the selection of Daniel Bwala, the premise of the selection was untenable in the first place. Daniel Bwala made clear, verifiable statements that you just can't walk back on. You can walk back on those statements in the Nigerian environment where we're kind of here today and here tomorrow. But on the international stage where people are going to screw at you, his selection was untenable. And at the end of the day, that falls on the feet of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I want to go back to this point of the fact that we call a politician like Mr. Tinubu a master strategist or a master politician. Because the question is, on what basis is that? And it shows our continued prioritization of parochial politics versus international politics. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has no standing. Nigeria as a country has no standing on the international stage. We are living in a world, in a moment where geopolitics is driving headlines, where the age mates of Bola Ahmed Tinubu are carving off spheres of influence all over the world. And we have to ask ourselves, for such a massive strategist, why is it that your influence doesn't even extend beyond West Africa? Why is it that it doesn't extend to the rest of Africa? And for goodness sake, why is it that it doesn't even extend or even attempt to extend onto the international stage? And this goes to the fact that we've been making the same mistake we've been making as Nigerians, as Black people, as civilizations for the last 500 years, which is prioritizing parochial politics, parochial gains over international gains where it actually matters, where it actually matters. And so there has to be a redefinition of what we consider somebody with political clouds or what we consider somebody who's a political heavyweight. Because quite frankly, a lot of times when you see these so-called Nigerian politicians beating their chest here at home, you see them at Gatwick, you see them at JFK, they're acting like houseboys. They have no place. Can you imagine somebody like Tinubu himself or even Wike sitting in front of Putin? None of our politicians are even anywhere close of standing. When you talk about master strategists, whether you love him or not, the likes of Netanyahu are master strategists because he's been able to co-opt the entire political class of the American system to do their bidding. That's what you call a master strategist. So again, it shows the lowness of the bar. The other point that I want to make is we often talk about this Machiavellian aspect of Nigerian politics and the politics is a game of interest. It's important that Nigerians understand that politics in a failed nation is tantamount to buffoonery. Our politics is inconsequential. We're like a bunch of ants fighting over an anthill. You know, you play politics in environments where it actually matters, where there's gain domestically and internationally. We're playing politics over unbuilt roads, lack of healthcare system, 160 million people in multi-dimensional poverty, in extreme poverty. What politics are you playing? So it's like the emperor wearing no clothes. The final point that I want to make is this. At the heart of the issue of how we judge, categorize politicians, of what drives the issues that we see in Nigeria, it's not a lack of integrity. It's not corruption. It's not these things. It's a lack of ambition. It's only in people who lack ambition who clap for themselves when they drill boreholes or build flyovers. It's a lack of ambition. And this lack of ambition has been plaguing us for the last 500 years because fundamentally we're broken people. And we have not healed to gain our self-confidence and our self-esteem. And only when you have ambition do you now begin to right the wrongs. This all of a sudden, building roads is not a big deal. Building flyovers is not a big deal. You want to be competing at the top. You want to be a dominant nation, not just in Africa, but globally. So at the heart of it all is a lack of ambition. And Bola Tinubu himself lacks ambition. And so when we start talking about what we want in our leaders, it goes beyond capacity, competence, or any kind of parochial interest. It's about ambition. Who wants to be number one, not just in Africa, but the world? That is what we should be demanding. And that is what is lacking. And this is the way it shows itself up on the international stage. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Nnamdi, for your submission. As always, people will disagree with others' opinion, and everybody has the right to their own opinion. But because of time, I would have loved to respond to some of the things he said. But before I pass the mic to the next speaker, please do bear with me. I would like to carry those on the comment section along. 10 over 10 said, mindset, interesting conversation. Let's spare Bwala for a minute and ask for the scorecard of APC/Tinubu on security of lives and properties of Nigeria, food security, education, corruption of government officials, even Joe Gerard, world greatest salesman, cannot set this administration. Thank you, sir, for your contribution. The same person, 10 over 10. Good evening, mindset. This remains my take on the disgraceful show of shame that Bwala is beaten on head-to-head. The current government of APC led by Tinubu has failed in all ramifications. There is nothing to sell out there. You can't give what you don't have. And thank you very much. So if there's any other person that would like to contribute, be it on the comment section, on the speaker session, you're welcome to request for the mic, or you put your comment on the comment section. I will read that out. Do we have any new speaker who has not contributed yet? Okay, Mr. John, you raised your hand earlier on. If not, I'll go to Adebayo, or I'll come to Ayo.
Yes, can you hear me? Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, okay. So for the last speaker, there are just two things I want, and it's not a pushback in substantial terms. It's sort of within the context that the speaker has spoken about, right? So I just want to say that I don't think it was a bad interview from the point of view of politics. I think that a bad interview, right, is when, like, okay, so you're nervous, you're imprecise, or on a rhetorical level, you're outmatched, right? However, being confronted with your own contradictory public statements, that's something else. That's not a bad day, right? So in that sense, I actually thought it was a good interview. And here's why I say this. It was a good interview because the government spokesperson took the beating, right? Of course, Mehdi Hassan, right? Mehdi Hassan is famously adversarial, right? And like this is his style of interviewing. But remember that even with the most faced with the most unconscionable of President Tinubu's actions, Bwala acted as if it was water off a duck's back, right? Now, but what made the performance collapse was not the inadequacy of Daniel Bwala. It was the impossibility of the assignment that Bwala was assigned, right? Defending Tinubu's government before an interviewer who is both hostile and well prepared is impossible. Because the government's record itself is difficult to defend, right? Whether you're thinking of security, kidnappings, attacks, all of that, the record is clear. Tinubu's issue with the US is clear. Bagudu is on record. You know, these are things that are on paper. So what Bwala was sent to defend were crimes on paper. And so, except you wanted Bwala to capitulate and say, we are sorry, it was not the worst of interviews, right? Of course, it was from the point of view of Nigerians, it was horrific. It was a shit show. It was everything you wanted to talk about. But I'm thinking from the point of view of the person who is sent to defend the indefensible, right? And so I will just end by saying that what makes us all like cringe was the spectacle, I think, of a spokesperson for a government that has no legitimacy and is failing, was learning that spin has limits. There's a limit to spin, and that's what we learned with Bwala. Bwala tried to spin, and that's Bwala's selling point. That was his selling point when he was spokesperson for Atiku. That is his selling point for Tinubu, that he's some kind of spin doctor. What we learned in that interview was that spin has limits. And Mehdi showed the limits of that spin, right? There are only so many elegant phrases you can use when people are being kidnapped, killed, and priced out of ordinary life we can see it. So of course, what Daniel Bwala did was that he offered himself as tribute. He offered himself as sacrifice. He said, "Dear darling Tinubu, I will lay my life for you. I will put my neck down as the international media draws and quarters me so that you do not have to do it, so that you see the extent of my loyalty and you know how much I love you and how much I need to be rewarded." And that was the point of this interview. Not that anybody thought that mindset, if they tell you now, today, I give you $20 million mindset. And I know mindset, you are great at PR and all of that, right? If I give you $20 million today, mindset, I say, go and defend the increasing attacks on soldiers, the daily kidnapping, the fact that Nigerians can barely feed, the fact that a person who was bagman for Atiku is now in a ministry in charge of the entire budget. What can you say in response to this but love? I don't think there's anything that Bwala could have done, as horrible as a human being he is, as really despicable as a human being he is. And I'm not pushing back to say I disagree with you. I'm just saying, let's think of it from the point of a person who has a task that is impossible. Thank you, Master.
All right, so I was thinking you're going to give me the $20 million now. So I was going to ask Big Movement to collect the money, then I will respond later. But thank you very, very much for your wonderful submission, guys. This is a very serious topic, and we are here to have this conversation whereby people will disagree and agree, and we're here to learn as well. But I think we should move to the next topic. Only if there's any other person that would like to add anything on this topic that we have discussed. Do you have anything to add? You have a minute, so let's go to the national El-Rufai topic. I think that's very interesting that I would like to hear your thoughts on. Okay, Adebayo, you have a minute. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, mindset. I don't want to, box myself into a corner like an Bwala date. Or I just quickly want to disagree with certain things. I can't remember the person that really mentioned some of those things, but that politics is actually morality, and I quickly wanted to disagree. How do you uh, get into power in in a democratic after the counting or whatever that is still going to the majority? You need to have the numbers. There's no way you want to paint it, the counter, the counting. At the end of the day, you go back to the numbers. And then we need to really get the difference between politics and governance. There are two distinctive elements. So politics is it's not actually the same thing as governance. So I think that is just what I want to quickly give report. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor. Sorry, I'm going to change your name to Victor Adebayo. Ayo, you raised your hand. Please go ahead for a minute, so let's go work with the next topic.
Just a quick. I think it was whether it was the speaker just before mentioned something about influential world leaders and all. I just want to point out that most of the influential leaders actually derive their influence from the either economic power, global political, geopolitical power, or military power of their country. Notably, a Cameroonian leader cannot be said, with due respect, to be a global influential power. So I think the most recent influential Nigerian president would be Obasanjo. Uh, that can be traced back to his military era when he was military president. And Nigeria was doing relatively well when he was military president, and even at the beginning of democracy. So we cannot totally say the set of leaders we've had after that have failed because they are not influential globally. So the deeper issue is to look at Nigeria. We've got the population. India has population, but you discover that India has got a population of people that are very relevant. That's why Apple can take some of their factories to India, to China. So that is influence. So their leaders derive their global influence from the, their country capabilities, so to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayo, for your submission. I think when it comes to influence and what Mr. Namdi said, I think I understood where he's going, right? Or the point he's trying to make. Let me give you an example. Like you mentioned, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. If it was Obasanjo who happens to be the president, and we had this issue with Niger Republic, right? Obasanjo would have handled it in a different way. I do not think Obasanjo would have allowed Niger to move on, and leave ECOWAS, and then you see Burkina Faso and the rest of them. I think that's the thing that I'm not comfortable with Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the manner and the way they handled it. I do not think they handled the Niger thing very well. So that alone for me was a no-no, right? Good luck, gentlemen. He's very diplomatic. He may have found a way to do it, but I think Bola Tinubu wanted to use the same, the same way he deals with Nigerian politicians to deal with the whole thing, and he failed. I think when that happened, it shows that something is not adding up here, right? And then there are those who would argue that, okay, what are you talking about influence? He had met the Turkish president. He has had a conversation with them, and they're happy to work with us in terms of giving us ammunition. Are you not saying that's not an influence? He have met other world leaders. He have met the Brazilian president and what have you. So there are those who would argue that he's still 2 years and 10 months in office, right? If for any reason he wins the next election, maybe we'll see more interaction between himself and other world leaders. So he still have some time to get things back on track. But thank you very much, Ayo, for your submission. So guys, we're gonna go quickly to Nasir El-Rufai. And Nathan, I've just seen your tweet about Nasir El-Rufai, and I'm quite impressed with someone like yourself, Professor Chidi, and Arteta Peter side and every other person that have spoken about it, because my position is different, right? And I believe that Nasir El-Rufai, what he said on Arise TV should be investigated. That's my position, and I'm not going to move away from that, right? But in doing so, you cannot, hold him against the law, right? He's been there for 14 days. That's the time that ICPC are supposed to hold him. But I've seen your tweets where you're calling for them to charge him to court or they release him. I think that is what is needed right now. And so I agree with yourself. I agree with Professor Chidi, Arteta Peter side, and every other person who have said that ICPC, DSS, and other security agencies who, for some reason, have problem with, have cases with El-Rufai should charge him to court. They should charge him to court. Let the judge decide his fate, not keeping him there, right? So I would like to hear your thoughts on that. Then I'll pass the mic to the next speakers. Nathan, you have the mic, sir.
Thank you very much, Mindset. You see, Nasir is an interesting figure. He is impossible to defend, but I do know that there are many people who will die in the defense of Nasir. And I preface my statement with this, just to make it clear that I am deeply opposed to the kind of politics that people like Nasir El-Rufai perform, pursue, and engage in. I think that he's a horrific politician. I think he's a person who mocks democracy to its face. But the one thing I said directly to him and in general is, you see, a person who is interested in democracy and interested in rights and interested in justice cannot be interested in justice when it is justice for persons whose opinions they find palatable, whose positions they find correct, whose personalities they find amenable. I think that all of the things, and even in the fact, here, I'll tell you this, the reason this is how I even met Nasir El-Rufai. It was because I was engaged in this struggle for democracy and for the rule of law and anti-corruption when we were all fighting the excesses of the Jonathan government, that we actually met in person. And I thought that he was the person who was interested in this. But I quickly understood that he was not, and he was looking for followers, and he was looking for people who would, be one of his disciples. But today, all of the things that Nasir refused to give to people who were his opponents, to people who opposed him when he was in government, all of the things that are owed to people under law, like fair trial, like access to justice, like the presumption of innocence. People like Audume Kori, people like Gloria Ballison, people like Stephen Jefferson, people like Chidi Odinkanu. We can reel this list off. We can keep going and going and going. People that Nasser did not give this exact same thing to. We see it, but we say to Nasser, it does not matter if you are a person who acts in unconscionable ways. We say to the Nigerian government that you cannot hold a person for over 2 weeks without charging them to court, without having a clear process for justice. This itself is injustice. And injustice does not matter. It does not pick if it is injustice to a good person or injustice to a bad person. And that's why we call for the release of Nasser El-Rufai, or you charge him to court. Do you have a charge? If you don't have a charge, let him go. And I think that what the current government is doing is just completely bonkers. It's just stupid. If you don't have a charge, release Nasser El-Rufai. If you have a charge, then charge Nasser El-Rufai, let him have his day in court. There is absolutely no reason to hold a person beyond 48 hours, except for extenuating circumstances, which our law allows for, which has not been shown thus far. There is no reason for Nasser to be in captivity, and I would say captivity for more than 2 weeks. And I say this again, finally, as a person who despises the role that Nasser has played both in Kaduna politics and in national politics. I wield my mindset.
All right, thank you very much, Nathan. I told the same line as yours. I think the government should charge him to court or they release him, because one thing is, you've accused him of committing a crime. Why are you keeping him? I mean, it doesn't make sense. You know, sometimes people who dislike him start speaking for him, then the government should be able to look at this and say, okay, we don't want to make a mistake here. Please, I don't want us to get something wrong, you know, to misquote myself or those who are saying that he should be released or take charged to court. It's not that he has not committed a crime. The government accused him of committing a crime. Take him to court or you release him. I think that's the thing that needs to be done at this point. You see, that this thing about us as Nigerians, when we dislike somebody, even if that person is right, we just try as much as possible to say it doesn't matter. Is it, you know, the person should be dealt with. That's not how life works, because you don't know tomorrow. I'm saying this to say I put out a tweet about the Nigerian troops eliminating one terrorist called Alti, you know, and the comment is quite interesting, and everybody's asking, okay, are you doing propaganda for the government? Are you, you know, are you, how sure can you, don't believe this government? No, I don't believe this. And then I put another tweet where, you know, terrorists, you know, took the life of a Nigerian commanding officer, right? And everybody's saying Bwala Tinubu's government is rubbish. You know, nobody questioned whether that tweet is right or wrong, but because it has to do with Bwala Tinubu's government, right? But that's not how life works. You know, this government might not be perfect, but then again, if the military or the security apparatus are doing something right, I think it behoves on us to say, guys, they have done something right. So on this note, I believe that the Nigerian government should charge Nasser El-Rufai to court or they release him. That's my position. Do you have any other person, anyone who would like to contribute to this particular topic? Everybody, anyone who is interested in this one? Okay, Ariwa, please go ahead. Good evening.
Good evening, Mindset, and good evening to everyone on the platform. You see, regarding the Nasri El-Rufai case, I want to take a step back to the issue of Malami when we were complaining that it is a political witch hunt, and so many people were arguing and telling us all sort of things regarding the Malami situation. You see, the truth is, it's not, they don't care about what Nasri El-Rufai said about them tapping phone calls or him tapping phone calls the other way around. They are just targeting opposition. This is a clear, coordinated, and targeted attack on opposition leaders. The issue of one party state is not a conspiracy theory. I don't know why people are taking it for granted. It is a reality. These are deliberate attempts to silence strong opposition voices. It's a pattern. And I will explain why I said it's a pattern. You see, when you look at what is happening with other politicians who have done and are doing way more than what Nasri El-Rufai and the Malamis have done, but they are in the APC, you will see that this pattern is a coordinated attack. They have no proper charge with Nasri El-Rufai, because if they did present charges, the competent case may be thrown away. So, but that they are looking for. They are not looking for justice. They are not trying to investigate him for wiretapping anything. They are just trying to blackmail and silence the opposition. This is exactly what the administration is doing, nothing in between. So the issue of them coming up with charges, the issue, I find that as inconsequential at the moment. And because if you are to charge somebody to, I think that's the first thing they were supposed to do. Because a news came out that they were charging him to court, and then the following day they arrested him, and we never get to hear about the court again. They didn't even presented him in court in set date, and so many things that just point to one direction, that it is deliberate. It is not a mistake. It is an intentional attempt. And Nasir El-Rufai raised this concern, and to make it worse, the ICPC, a body that even with the competency of EFCC, at least EFCC have trying to show some level of commitment to what they are doing. The ICPC has been docile. They barely do anything. They handle cases in such a way that you don't even understand the way they operate. There's nothing to write home about them. So they became a perfect tool for people in government who have a personal vendetta or wish to do some form of political witch hunt on the opposition. So I don't really push for the idea of them that they should release Nasir El-Rufai. This is just what they are supposed to do. If they have anything against him, they can as well take it to court. Because this we are talking about a two-time sitting governor of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a minister. So he's not just some random person that they could be throwing him around or he will vanish or something like that. So when we see that whether these crimes is committed, I was talking about Malami, I said it's not about Malami committing this crime or not. It's about the way at which they are handling the situation. So it's not an issue of whether Malam Nasir El-Rufai is a saint or he has been the best thing since Jollof Rice or what have you. No, is that if we permit this kind of approach towards people of reputable characters, like a two-time governor of a state like Kaduna State, then at the end of the day, people like you and I cannot even be able to air our opinion anymore, because it will become a normal thing to silence voices that are against the government. So it's something that we all need to talk about, something that we all need to put pressure on the government to release Nasir El-Rufai, because I'm not looking forward to them taking it. They have no reason to take this route, to take this approach and treat him like that. So it's quite unfortunate, and I think we really, really need to do something about it. I yield.
All right, thank you, Adiwa, for your submission. Him being a two-time governor and being a minister is not, I do not think that's a reason for the government to say, okay, we're going to release him because he's a former minister and a two-time governor. If he has committed any crime, whether he's He's a former vice president. They should charge him to court. My position here is this, right? You know, based on law, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've followed what the Nigerian Constitution says. You cannot keep him there, right? This is the thing. So if he has committed a crime, they should take him to court. Let's not say because he's a former governor, he's a former minister, he should not be charged and everything. So that means if anyone commits a crime and you happen to be a governor, we should just put our hands and say no. But I do understand the point you're trying to make. It would appear to some persons that this is a witch hunt against the opposition. But then again, this is very important. It's very important I say this. If anyone is in the opposition and your hands are not clean, believe you me, if the government is coming after that person, I do not think Nigerians should say the government should not do their job, right? So being in the opposition does not mean you're going to be allowed to commit crimes and you say, okay, let's cry witch hunt, witch hunt. But if you're in the opposition and your hands are clean and everything, please continue to do your opposition. But if you're in the opposition and your hands is not clean and this government come after you, boy, you're going to answer for it. Right? That's my position in this. Okay, Ariwa, you raise your hand before I pass the mic back to Adebayo.
My side, I'm not saying he should be excused because he's a two-time governor. I'm just saying that if you have such a disregard for somebody who has occupied such an office, then I think ordinary citizens are in serious trouble. Because nobody is saying if Nasir El-Rufai committed a crime because he's a two-time governor or this. If they can boycott or sabotage the law on somebody as high profile as Nasir El-Rufai, this is what I'm saying now. You can imagine what they would do to ordinary citizens. So it's not an issue of him being a governor and he should be excused or not. No, the reference I'm trying to make is if him as a two-time governor and a minister in Nigeria will not be treated with due process, then I don't know what will happen to ordinary citizens.
Okay, thank you very much, Ado. I think I get the point you were trying to make. Do we have any other person who would like to contribute to this particular topic? Okay, Adebayo, please go ahead, and we'll go to Olumide. Adebayo, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mindset. Quickly, let me use this summary to respond to Arewa. These are the reasons why you may not be granted bail, and it is somehow worldwide. Number one, when the offense is extremely serious, when the offense is very close to those that can be punishable by capital punishment or by life imprisonment, you may not be granted bail immediately. Number two, when the person poses a danger to the community, the victim, the witnesses, or public safety, and you will agree with me, for someone to confess openly on the national TV that he wiretapped the NSA's phone line, it can be likened to something like this also. Number three, when the person is high risk, when the person is of high risk of flight, that is basically, run away or abscond, the enforcement agent may not grant the person bail. Number four, when the person have the risk of tampering with evidences, and when the person can resort to intimidation of witnesses or obstructing justice, the person may not be granted or may be denied the right of bail. Number five, when the offender has the history of violating release conditions, there's a lot of reasons. So if the family or all those that are aggrieved that El-Rufai is being kept in detention, if they are so aggrieved, and El-Rufai himself is so aggrieved of his detention, I think the court is still there for him his lawyers can go there and apply for his bail. Let them, put everything under the trial of the court. For me, is continuous dissension. Yes, some people might say is unlawful, is this, is that. But maybe in the eyes of the enforcement agencies, they believe because he left, I think, another agency before he moved to ICPC, they must believe that he has committed something of these natures that I mentioned, and that's why they kept him in detention until they finalize the investigation done and everything. He will still definitely have his days in court. So that is my belief, and that is the summary. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Victor. Thank you very much, Adebayo, for your submission. I apologize. I always call you Victor. Before I pass the mic to Olumide, please do bear with me for a minute or so. Mr. Netson, please, I would like to hear your thoughts on this. You're a lawyer. So Adebayo has mentioned quite a number of things, the reasons why Nasu El-Rufai should not be released. What do you make of that as a lawyer? Is he right?
Do you mean the reasons why, he's still in incarceration?
Yes. So I'm not sure if you heard what Mr. Adebayo said. If not, I would ask him to repeat himself again.
Please. Just the last thing he said. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Adebayo, are you happy to do so? To repeat yourself again? If not, I can paraphrase. All right, so let me paraphrase because of time. So he said one of the reasons why El-Rufai has not been released, that it would appear that the security agencies have evidence that have reason to keep him. One of the reasons might be that he's a flight risk. He might tamper with the evidence. And then there's another thing he said. I can't remember the two things he said. So, if you want to respond to these two that I mentioned, do you think they have any reason to hold him?
So look, Nasser is one of the most prominent faces in the country. To our knowledge, he does not have an extra passport. He only has a Nigerian passport. Now, of course, one could make the argument that he could be smuggled across to the borders, whatever. But the Nigerian state needs to make this case not before the Nigerian public, but before the Nigerian courts. If they seek to hold him for longer, then they must make that argument in court. The law is clear about how long you can hold a person, unless, for example, if you're holding them under laws like the Terrorism Act, in which case the law allows you to extend the period of incarceration, for example, for some period. But these are regular criminal offenses, right? And yes, they may seem huge in the face of Nigerians, or especially within the political sort of period that we are in, that they are expedient. However, no such case has been made before a Nigerian court to hold him for the period that they're holding him. It is either they have a case or they do not have a case. We know, for example, that he came into Nigeria voluntarily. He submitted his passport, so they do have his passport with them, right? If they do not have a case, the right thing under the law is to release him. They do have a case. The right thing under the law is to charge him with the case which they have prepared. None of these two things are clear. And so the issue of whether he might be a flight risk, these are conjectures. In law, conjecture has no space, has no place. They must make this argument before a court of law. That law will come to the determination that his incarceration is either justified or not. I expect, in fact, in the next few days or weeks, that if Nasser's lawyers, they will petition the courts and say, look, are we charging our client or not? But I think that it comes to Ariwa's case, even though Ariwa and I don't agree on many things. In this case, it is a clear intention to stifle the opposition. And mindset, you know me, I despise most people in this opposition. And I think that what needs to be done is that Nasser needs to either be released or charged. All of these excuses, maybe this, maybe that, this does not matter. Make this case before a court of law, and then we can have justice. Thank you, Mindset.
All right, thank you very much, Nathan, for your submission. Olumide, you have the mic before I go to Emmy and come back to Adebayo. Olumide, the mic is yours. Good evening. Hi, Olumide, the mic is yours. Somebody's mic is on. Please, if you're not a speaker, can you please mute your mic? Thank you. And if you'd like to contribute, as always, please do raise your hand that I know you're ready to speak. All right, Olumide is not responding. Mr. Nicholas, you have the mic. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, all. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak on this issue. I've heard different speakers comment on the El-Rufai case, but personally, which I think basically something we Nigerians are well familiar with, but sometimes we tend to underplay it. I think it's a situation where we don't have formidable institutions. That's why cases like El-Rufai and Malami, and even on other Nigerians are being kept incarcerated or detained more than they should, instead of taking them to the law courts for them to have their day. No matter how we try to speak in terms of it's a persecution against the opposition, I think the present system or the present government we have is not a government that do listen to the yearnings of Nigeria. No, talk about the rule of law. We know we have, for example, we have a rubber stamp Senate, or even the judiciary is there's a terminology we use for the judiciary currently in this Bwala Tinubu's government. It's like an extended family kind of business or relationship where nothing is being done the way it should be done. So we, knowing that El-Rufai being who he was when he was the Kaduna state government, or even when he was the FCT minister of Abuja, he's a terrible human being, personally speaking. But still, that doesn't mean that if the Nigerian state has a case against him, it shouldn't be treated fairly. But I think it's a system which we have built over time, where the rule of law, we do not understand the importance of the rule of law. It's not just against the likes of El-Rufai or other non-prominent Nigerians. Even in terms of businesses, our relationship with the international world, they know that the rule of law in Nigeria is nothing to write home about. And if we do not fix it on time, probably in the nearest future, it's going to hurt the country as a whole. And going forward, I think it's a collective effort for everyone to keep speaking up the way we've been speaking up in our only two ways about the importance of the rule of law and importance of strong institutions, at this moment.
Thank you very much, Nicholas, for your submission. Can you please mute your mic, sir, please? Thank you. Emmy, you have the mic, then I'll come back to Adebayo.
Thank you, Mindset. God bless you. First and foremost, I think the problem with Nigeria is that we fail to understand or we fail to agree on certain things. You see, mindset, I used to say there is no opinion to law. The law is law. The law is a standard of rules that guide a community or a country or wherever, and personal opinion doesn't matter. Now, the truth is, despite how anybody feels or how anybody say, oh, my opinion is, the truth is nobody has the right to hold El-Rufai in incarceration without the approval of the court. I am not an El-Rufai fan, but I will always say the bigger problem in this with this particular government that we have is that we have a government of mafia. And this is the only problem that I have with this government, and why I will keep saying that every Nigeria should rise up and stop this government, because what the future holds for us with this level of mafianism, this level of brutal murdering and brutal behavior without consideration of the people, without the regard of the law that started from Buhari government and Tinubu is taking it to the next level, is something that would not help us as a country. But be that it may, myself, if you remember, I said sometimes when this El-Rufai issue started, that this government will not try El-Rufai. They will not, because this is a government that has established itself as a deal breaking government. If you agree to work with me, your sins are forgiven. Sunday Igboho is everywhere moving around today. We've seen criminals, we've seen people that did worse things that are more than El-Rufai being free, and as long as they stand on the mandate. If Nnamdi Kanu decide to stand on the mandate today now, trust me, he will come out and this government will tell us that Nnamdi Kanu is the best thing that's ever happened to Nigeria. So this is the situation that we have found ourselves, and it's very funny. And I still maintain my stand that this government will not try El-Rufai. They will keep him there, try to have negotiation, trying to cut a deal with him. And the only reason El-Rufai is being in that prison is because he refused to accept their deal. The moment he said, okay, fine, I accept your deal on the mandate, trust me, the next morning you will hear that El-Rufai is free. So it's a very unfortunate situation that we have found ourselves as a country, that we have a government who doesn't care about rule of law, who doesn't care about the people, who doesn't care about the public opinion, who just sit down in their kitchen cabinets and discuss how they want things to go, and they do it without even giving an F whose horse is God's or how anybody feels about it. We are heading to a situation whereby our opinion, our self-liberty, our freedom, our right our right and privileges will be stripped away from us if we don't try all we can to stop this government before this government finish everything. It's unfortunate, and only God will help us. I yield my mic. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Amy, for your submission. Gosh, I'm going to respond to that. You see, God is not going to come from heaven to help us. He has given us everything we need to help ourselves, right? And I think it's very important we allow God to rest for a little bit and do things that we are meant to do. But thank you for your contribution. I when I see people mostly on timeline arguing that what's going on with El-Rufai and Bwala Tinubu is a game, it makes me wonder. I do not know where people get their information from. And you see somebody making a serious case against it. This thing is part of 2027. El-Rufai is working for Tinubu and everything. As you know, I don't engage people. I just do my thing. And there is nothing like a game here. They're not. This is not a game. Anyone that tells you there is a game, I don't know where they get their information from. There's no game here. Bola Ahmed and Tinubu's government and El-Rufai are not working together. You can disagree with me. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But the little I know, I always like to use this term, the little I know, I can tell you for free that there is no game being played here, right? Is he going to accept their deal? It's up to him. If he's going to work with them, if he's going to say, no, one thing, I'm going to stand my grad and let the worst can happen is I will be in prison and everything. That's up to him. How can somebody be playing a game? Somebody that, you know, there was one of the first person that said this government is not paying subsidy. Do you understand what that did to Bwala Ahmed Tinubu's government? And you think, you know, people will just come up with conspiracy theories and they will write things and everything. Guys, I don't know where you get your information from, but what's going on with El-Rufai and Bwala Ahmed Tinubu is not a game. It has nothing to do with they are trying to use it against the opposition. No. This is serious. All right. Do we have any other person who would like to contribute? If not, I will go on and read out what's going on in the comment section. Okay, that Otumba GCFRR mindset, please. What's the title so we know the topic before engaging? All right, so we started with the issue of Daniel Bwala, and we have dealt with that one. We are just dealing with Nasu El-Rufai. The reason I didn't put any topic is because we have 3 topics I would like us to discuss. So, but we dealt with one already. We are in the second one. If we do have enough time, we might be able to touch on the insecurity, which I think is very important as well. Thank you very much. If there's any other person, please do raise your hand. Adebayo, go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'm almost losing my line of thought. Well, thank you for giving me the mic again. I would like to read maybe the lawyer that you called on. I was not by my phone. I don't know if he didn't really listen to me, because this is what we have in the law, except he wanted to disagree with what we have in the law. Number one, the ICPC obtained a court order to remand El-Rufai. I think that should be brought to the fore. They have a 14-day remand order. I don't know when the 14th day will be expiring. And if at all the order have expired, I am emphasizing that even they still have the right to detain him further. The crime that they have, like he confessed to commit, contrary to what the lawyer said, is not an ordinary civil matter or an ordinary thing. Maybe he's viewing it that way from an opposition point of view, where I don't have a problem with that. But for me, I don't want to politicize the issue of security, not at this time that we have a lot of security problem in our country. And somebody confessed to wiretapping the phone conversation of our NSA. NSA is not an ordinary office. That is the number one security pivot of the country. So we should not, just because of politics, try to water it down, that it's just an ordinary civil crime. No, it is very grievous crime against the public, against society, against the Nigerian nation. And this is something he confessed to have done openly. So, and the summary of what I said is that when the offense is that serious, number two, is leaving him can constitute further damage to our security architecture. So, not only because he may want to escape, those are just the orbital of the whole thing, just in passing. But the number one is that how serious is the offense? I disagree that it is just an ordinary civil thing. So please don't water it down. And I will really, it is very shameful, very, very shameful for anybody to begin to look at our security architecture only from the point of a political witch hunt. If you are not a witch, who will hunt you? So I think this is something every one of us should take very serious beyond the gambit of the political party or whatever shenanigans they have among themselves. This is really, really something that's very serious to me. And I think that is how it should be handled, not in the way we are trying to water it down, that it just is. Please, I respectfully disagree with that. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Victor, for your submission. Just to bring to your notice, I'm sure you're making reference to Nathan. And Nathan is not part of the opposition. It will surprise you to know that Nathan is one person who don't even believe in these opposition members, right? So whatever he said, I think I want to believe he spoke as a lawyer. So in terms of being part of the opposition, no, he's not, right? But there's something you said I would like to respond to. Now, you see how you contradicted yourself, and I hope you listen to me and perhaps you would like to respond. You said that the ICPC went to court and they got a court injunction to remind him for 14 days, but you're not sure if that time have elapsed. Okay, I will bring it to your notice that that time have elapsed. And you went on to say that even if that time have elapsed, they still have a right to hold on to him. That's not right. So if they want to, why did they have to go to court? What I thought you would have said is, now the 14 days have elapsed. I don't know. We have a lawyer here who would advise us, right? I believe that if they want to remind him, they want to keep him there, perhaps they will go to court again. But you cannot just say the 14 days have elapsed, then they still have the right to hold him. Under what law are they holding him? We want a better Nigeria. You support Bwala Ahmed Tinubu, which is your right, and there's absolutely nothing wrong in you supporting him. But then again, if we are pushing for this better Nigeria, this good Nigeria, we must be able to tell ourselves the truth. Take this man to court or release this man. I think that is where I would like to end it. You raise your hand quickly. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, mindset. I believe you did not really listen to me. Let me give you an example. Somebody that just, committed a capital offense and is still being investigated. I want the lawyers on the platform to really, say something today. We have reason why the enforcement can detain anybody, even without court order. We have reason why, enforcement can continue to detain somebody, So for me, the offense committed on the gravity of that offense is detained, can be continuous when the investigation is completed. And even it's not only the enforcement agency that have the right to go to the court. If he agreed, instead of coming on social media on media, let him also approach the court. Let his lawyer go and approach the court for his bail, whether it will be granted, or let them even call the law enforcement agency. Let them call them, let them sue them, and let everything be tried. And before I give the mic again, I want the lawyers on the space to either, and I will take it. If there is any law that permits the enforcement agent to, detain a particular person without release, whether there's any law like that in Nigeria, because I read it somewhere. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the only lawyer we have on the platform is Nathan. If there's any other lawyer, please do let me know that you're a lawyer, and I would want to recognize you as well. So on that note, I'll pass the mic to Nathan to explain to us if what you say is factual, right? Nathan, please, you have the mic, sir.
Oh, hey, man. Normally, I try not to respond to people speaking on behalf of government. Anyway, for me, so let's look at the detention of Nasser by the ICPC, right? Under Section 35 of the Nigerian Constitution, personal liberty is not like a discretionary gift from the state, right? The person must be brought to court within a reasonable time, and their continued detention must rest on clear judicial authorization. Now, in the El-Rufai situation, reportedly, ICPC obtained a 14-day remand order from magistrate court on the 19th of February, 2006. detaining him pending investigation, right? That order, especially according to his lawyers, expired, if you add 19 days, since 19th of February, that order has expired. Yet he has remained in custody without being formally charged before a competent court, right? So if the facts that we know are correct, the legal question becomes, on what lawful authority is the continued detention being carried out? Not on what perceived wrong, right? Not on what perceived danger. On what lawful authority is the continued detention being carried out? Now, here's the thing about remand orders in law. The idea of remand orders that go beyond the 28 to 48 hours as prescribed by the Constitution are that they are meant to preserve the integrity of investigations. Remand orders are not meant to replace prosecution, right? So, and we have several cases, I don't want to go into this detail, but Nigerian courts have repeatedly cautioned that remand orders must not become a procedural shortcut that allows agencies to detain suspects while they search for evidence. The job of searching for evidence should happen before that order is being given, right? The moment detention ceases to be tied to a valid court order or to an active prosecution as mandated by the court, then it becomes what the Constitution was written to prevent. The Constitution was written to prevent detention at the pleasure of the state. Today, as we know it, El-Rufai is being detained at the pleasure of the state. I yield.
All right, thank you very much, Nathan. I raised my hand just because I heard you say 2006. I think you meant 2026. I
Yes,
do not want someone
sorry.
to misquote you.
I meant 2026. Sorry. I think I'm mentally in 2006. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Ayo, you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you, Mindset. Yeah. Just to say that I completely agree with most of the speakers that El-Rufai shouldn't be held perpetually. Though I don't like his style of public speaking. He speaks with so much certainty, arrogantly about future political outcomes, as though he will just sit down somewhere and determine everything. That I don't like about him. But it's of public knowledge that the remand order obtained expired on the 5th of March. So if they want to renew it or do something, at least things should be done the right way. Then I disagree with Arewa when he said it's political winch hunt against opposition leaders. Just like I said during Malami debacle. This thing, if you are in a glass house, you don't throw stones. If you want to do opposition politics and do it with your full chest, make sure you don't have skeleton in your cupboard, because they will definitely use it against you. It is not only practice in Nigeria. They do it in so many countries. In Brazil, in India, they do it in so many places. That by no means we are saying that it is 100% right. But my position has always been, when subsequent governments come on board, some of those that were in the ruling class will now become opposition leaders. Then if the allegations against them are found to be valid by the court, then so be it. Let them pay for their sins. That has always been my own position. So there's in my dictionary, I don't too much. But if they have committed a crime against the state, and how can El-Rufai just come on TV and start saying, "I've been taping"? Who are you? You are just a Nigerian. I'm taping the NSA security. If the government fails to do something specifically about that, I'm not even about all this ICPC, and get to the roots. You can't just speak about a whole country like that. He has too much information from the way he speaks. There's another fellow, his friend. Uh, they were together in APC, Saliu Lukman. He speaks exactly the same way. We know what to do, we'll do it. You don't speak with like you are God, with so much certainty, arrogantly. So for me, I don't like that aspect. But you can't just keep people perpetually. And I think, sorry, I can see Nicholas raising his hand. I think he mentioned about Sunday Igboho. We should be mindful not to misinform the public. Sunday Igboho did not say he's wiretapping the NSA communication. I'm familiar with that area of Oyo State. There has been so many atrocities by some bad Fulani bandits. Bad. I'm not saying all Fulanis are bad. I'm just saying those that move around raping women, killing people, destroying farms. And they got to his community. Then he came out agitating the government should stop it. If it cannot be stopped, then they will they will have to defend themselves because they are killing his people. And that if within Nigeria it cannot be achieved, he started clamoring for Yoruba nation. It did not say Nigeria is this and that. What to me, what he was saying was legitimate. So you can't compare that criminals like Sunday Igboho has been released, is roaming around. I disagree with that. That's my point. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ayo, for your submission. Then let me add something to what you said. Now, you might disagree with Arewa, but there's a point in what Arewa said, and I'll tell you why. If you look at somebody like the former governor of Abia State, right? He was accused by this present governor of stifling money that was meant for the airports in Abia State. Okay, the ICPC, the EFCC, or what have you, have not gone after him. He's been rewarded as an ambassador to Spain. Now, from Arewa's point of view, it would then appear that, okay, if truly these guys are fighting if they're actually going after those who have committed a crime, why do you have to allow an individual like Okezi Bazu, right? That's one. Now, another point I would like to put to you is this. The former governor of Delta State, when he was in PDP, EFCC went after him and they accused him of looting money from this thing. So he has now joined APC. That case is as dead as doodle, right? So it appears that this is the point he's trying to make. But I would agree with you that somebody who went on the national TV to speak about how the NSS line was tapped, whether it's by himself or he knows somebody who did it, right? It's not something we are going to clap for them because they're in the opposition. I believe, and I still stand on that, there has to be an investigation. Where I have a problem with it here is, why are you keeping him more than the time you should keep him? Investigate him. If you don't find anything against him, let him go. If you have done your, investigation and find out there's nothing of such, he was just talking because he wanted to show himself to be, a better opposition leader, then let him go, right? All right, thank you. We're gonna round up, guys. It's been a very interesting conversation. The other topic, I think we might need to move it for another day. But Nicholas, please go ahead. You have a minute before I pass the mic to the next person. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mindset. I think kind of you answered, you spoke my mind when you said probably what Malam El-Rufai might have said on national telly. It might just be ranting. And if Nigeria is not a failed state or close to being a failed state, they should have, the NSA, the office of the NSA, if we have good institutions, should have carried out a detailed investigation, just like the lawyer on the platform did allude to, before arresting, before detaining him. And if he had been detained for the 14 days which the law permits, they should have been able to ascertain if what this gentleman said on national telly was, if he were just blabbing or if it was actually there's something to investigate. But at the moment, like we know in Nigeria, which was the former governor of Edo State did say, Adams Oshiomhole, he did mention that whenever you move over to APC, your sins are forgiven. So we should bear that in mind, that though whoever is in power, if the government in power, if they are doing, if whatever policy they put forward, if the policy is good for the country, then we should support. But at every point in time they put up a policy or they tend to act in a way that's not appropriate for the country, we should all be in opposition, not just those who call themselves political actors or politicians. I believe we are all, because at the end of the day, if the country is good, it favors each and every one of us. Because we live in a country where the likes of what the former governor of Kogi State, the one that pays school fees for his kids and unborn kids, we knew how the current what's it called, the EFCC chairman did kind of went on national telly and made a big statement that he has a duty to arrest the former governor. What's his name again? Yaya Bello. But same court, same Nigerian government, the moment he moved over to, I think he's part of the APC, but the moment he made peace with Bwala Tinubu's government, this was the same man that was granted a freedom to attend, is it the pilgrimage at Mecca or wherever? So we live in a country where the rule of law, I keep saying, or I wouldn't call it a double standard, it's just that we don't have the rule of law, which is applicable to whoever you are in a better society, all right? It doesn't care who you are, be it a politician or just an ordinary citizen. When you go against the rule of the country, you are held accountable. That's why in a much better society, corrupt individuals avoid politics. But in our own case, the worst of us are the ones showing up for politics, showing up to hold up a leadership position, and we then pick and choose and then start defending the indefensible. Like I'm not trying to call names or mock anybody on the platform, but I've heard some people make some statement, probably because they are aligned to certain kind of politics or a particular political party. Then they feel they are trying to dish out why X and X should happen or why this and that should happen. I think if we want a fairer society, we should advocate for the right thing to be done at every point in time, because they say the survivors of yesterday might be victims of tomorrow. So please, we should be careful the way we pick and choose. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Nicholas. Please, sir, can you mute your mic? Thank you. All right, thank you. So I'm not here to make a case for the EFCC, right? Because whenever I speak about the government, and some persons will be on my DM or you get an email the next day, I said, what are you trying to say? Are you working for APC or what have you, right? But I'm not making a case for EFCC. So in this case of the Yaya Bello, the case is still on. What happened is that they have charged him to court, and the court decided to give him bail. So I do not think it is an EFCC's problem. Now, where myself and I believe others would talk about EFCC not doing their job is when the EFCC will say, okay, we have withdrawn from this case, and then we're kind of, okay, what's going on here? So they have taken him to court. The judge decided that there's a need for him to be granted bail and his passport released to him. So that's on one hand. But I'm just going to bring this. I'm just going to say this. Maybe that would help yourself and every other person. You see, if you remember, prior to the 2023 election, the Senate president, I don't know how many of you remember, was charged then by the EFCC, and his lawyer said that he wasn't able to make it to court. I don't know how many of you remember that case. And there was one disease, I've never heard about that disease. It's only the Senate president that I've had that have that disease. The lawyer came up with one name, right? I don't know how many of you remember the case, right? That he's suffering from one disease. The name I can't, if I try to pronounce it, I probably might bite my tongue, but I will look for it and perhaps next time we're on the platform. And then, miraculously, after the election, the disease is gone. This is where I have problem with EFCC. This is a man that's been tried, and the lawyer said he can't make it. I'm talking about Senator Godswill Akpabio. Don't take my word for it, please. After these spaces, to do your research on this. We have not heard about that disease anymore. That's one of the miracles that happens in the Nigerian Senate. That's a miracle. That disease is gone. Nobody knows about what happened to that disease. That's my problem with EFCC. They should go after everyone that have committed a crime. When they do that, the opposition will then feel that there is no witch hunting here. But to say that somebody would go after the opposition and we are going to cry is witch hunting, no, I don't think so. El-Rufai knew that what he said might put him in trouble. Nobody forced him to go on national. He decided to approach the national TV. He said what he said. It wasn't his spokesperson that said it. But him saying that and them holding him against the law is where I have a problem. Take him to court or release him. Thank you, guys. We're going to round up in 6 minutes. It's at least 6 minutes. Nnamdi, you have the mic.
Mindset. Thank you again. I think you had one or two thoughts pertaining to what I said last time, so I'm happy to answer any of those thoughts. Otherwise, I'll continue to give my thoughts in regards to El-Rufai. So just let me know whichever one. But
because of time, maybe next time. So go ahead with your submission on El-Rufai.
Very quickly with El-Rufai, I think it's important that, in my personal opinion, what we call the political class in Nigeria is really a cartel. It's as simple as that. And the cartel negotiate power amongst themselves. And every once in a while, when they have disagreements about the power sharing, it spills into the public theater. And then they manipulate and cause the people to fight amongst themselves and to fight on their behalf, right? And then when they make up, they go behind the scenes and then they negotiate their deals. I think it's very important that we frame the reality, at least from my perspective, in this fashion. It's the people against the cartel. So whenever the cartel meter out punishments amongst themselves, that they understand the G code, there should be no tears and no pontification in terms of the legality of the game that they play. So if El-Rufai is guilty for many of the things that he's accused of, in addition to what he said on national television, in addition to the impunity with which he said what he said, then whether he goes to jail for 15 days or 50 days or 50 years should be no concern for Nigerians. If we are going to emancipate ourselves from this colonial contraption that we're in, from the arms of the cartel that we're in, then we have to spend our emotional and intellectual resources judiciously. And that means when the cartel punish each other, it's none of our business. Because the reality is that we are in a lawless land. And we are in a double standard society where it's a different rule for them and it's a different rule for us. And the quicker Nigerians of all constituencies, regardless of your religious background, ethnic background, understand that, the quicker that we can catalyze and galvanize to liberate ourselves from the cartel that we call the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So to make my point very succinctly, it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. No mercy, no tears. It's a cartel punishment for a cartel member, and we should go home and have a nice day. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Namdi, for your submission. Respectfully, I would disagree with you. And I'll tell you why I disagree with you. Now, El-Rufai might not be everybody's cup of tea. But then again, if we're going to rescue this country, there has to be rule of law, which you have spoken about, right? Whether El-Rufai was part of the cartel or is still part of the cartel, if we want a better country, we should abide by the rules, right? All I'm saying, and I believe others who have spoken have said, is treat him fairly. Fairly in the sense that if he has committed a crime, take him to court. If the judge decides that he's going to be there for 70 years, so be it. If the judge decides that he's not guilty, let him go. But, I just don't want to have a Nigeria whereby because not that you dislike him, but because we believe that somebody is part of anything, then the law should be against that person, right? But thank you very, very much for your submission. Next time we're on the platform, I will remember to ask the questions I wanted to ask you. And next time we do barely have a minute or 2 minutes before we round up. You have the mic.
Thank you very much, Mindset. I think just to summarize everything we've been talking about today, impunity thrives when, as a nation, we accept the parameters around which this impunity occurs. I will just, because we don't have time, just address the last comment that said, we live in a lawless country run by a cartel, so it doesn't matter, if El-Rufai is detained illegally. I would just say that this is exactly how lawlessness consolidates itself, right? Now, here's the thing about the rule of law. The rule of law does not survive by protecting only the people we like. Unless we agree that we want to demolish the entity called Nigeria. If we do not, and if we want to make it better, we have to argue that the rule of law survives by insisting that the law applies even to people we dislike. It applies to people we mistrust. It applies to people we politically oppose. It applies even to criminals. Justice Oputa, of blessed memory, father of Charlie Boy, Charles Oputa, gave this amazing dictum that said justice is not a one-way street, it's not a two-way street, it's a three-way street. It's justice for the accused, it's justice for the victim, it's justice for the accused, and justice for the society that cries out, right? So even when a person is a murderer, we cannot abandon the principle unless we are no longer defending justice, unless we are just choosing whose turn it is to be abused by the state. Democracy does not die the day a strong man appears. It dies when citizens stop defending legal protections because the current victim is not sympathetic enough. Today it may be a powerful former governor. Tomorrow it may be a journalist. Next week it may be an activist or student or an ordinary person who has no platform, no lawyer, no one to amplify their voice. And so, because of this, I say, it does not matter if it's El-Rufai, a person I find horrible. I'm from Kaduna, and most people from Kaduna will tell you, those especially who have been affected, that this man has been at the root of a lot of our dysfunction and failure. But today we stand for the right of El-Rufai to be charged before a court of law, not because we like the man, because we want democracy, because we like justice, because we are devoted to the rule of law. Thank you, Mindset. I hope you have a beautiful evening.
Mindset, can I say something to that for just 2 seconds?